All right, boys and girls, we are going to take a look at anti-Semitism, what it is, how it started, some of the stuff today. All right, let's go. We're going to start with taking a look at this cartoon. Okay, you see the Europe and the general here looking at this tiny little shrub. Don't worry, it's only a tiny shrub of anti-Semitism. Now, it's important for us to know and remember that anti-Semitism has very, very, very long and ancient roots. Okay, you can see the roots of this as the swastika, the Nazi swastika, but these roots go back thousands of years. Where it comes from, in that it's not new and it's not going away. Okay, so origins of the term. Hebrew is the Hebrew people, the Jewish people, it's a Semitic speaking. They're Semitic speaking people. Okay, now the term today, anti-Semitism, is just a general term for being prejudiced, discriminating against Jewish people as a whole. Okay, so that's where the term comes from. Now, there's three types of anti-Semitism, all having different, motives and origins. We're going to take a look at these. Okay, the first one is the racist anti-Semitism. This one we're going to see a lot in Nazi Germany. Jews are a racially different group of people. They are unique and different and not as good as the majority group. So therefore, they can be discriminated against because they're different racially at a blood level. Okay, the religious anti-Semitism we looked at yesterday. Some of these myths. They're different. They're a religious minority. They don't accept Jesus. They're responsible for killing Jesus. This is going to be the base. Most of the anti-Semitism for the first, 1,800 years of Christianity. And the other one that we built on the myths from yesterday. Jews are these rich bankers that control the world. They control the banking industry and want to take over the world. Okay, this one we're going to see early on in Nazi Germany as Germany goes through a very, very severe economic depression, and Jews are going to be a scapegoat economically. This one we're going to see more when Hitler takes power and Jews being defined as a different race altogether. Okay, now, kind of why this all happens, all right? We looked at this yesterday. We had the diaspora, when the Jews are forced out of Palestine in modern-day Israel, and they go throughout the Mediterranean, Eastern, Western Europe, okay? Because of this, they're always a minority, okay? They're always a minority group, all right? There's no Jewish nation anymore. That's, dissolved, controlled by the Romans, then controlled by the Muslims. And they're going to be an easy target for discrimination because they're always an outside minority group everywhere they go. Okay, we're going to see hatred by other religions. Way back, thousands of years ago, remember the Jews are the first monotheistic religion. All of these other groups, the Greeks, the Romans, Babylonians, all polytheistic, many gods. So religiously, they're different. Okay. Because Jews tended to isolate themselves or be isolated, a lot of people weren't in their communities. And because of this isolation, a lot of ignorance and stereotypes are going to build up over the years. And we're going to see these stereotypes and myths really evolve into a hatred and an anti-Semitism. Okay? Now, this idea of Jews being the killers of Jesus, this religious anti-Semitism, has been around as long as Christianity has been around. You can read some of these quotes here. You can pause it and read some of these things from some early Christian teachers, philosophers. Okay, this is nothing new. Okay, now what I want to get into is when you think of the pyramid of hate, and you got prejudice attitudes and acts of prejudice and discrimination, and you're getting up to violence. Right before we're getting into the genocide level, you're going to see something called a pogrom. Okay, say it with me, pogrom. Now, this comes from the Russian word of wreaking havoc or crazy violence, and this is an organized attack on a certain ethnic group. Okay, massive amounts of violence, whether it's premeditated, thought out, or spontaneous. And we're going to see this throughout European history. Okay. Now, do you have to know all these different pogroms? No. Okay. I just want you to know again that this organized violence is not something that Hitler created. There are many instances of anti-Semitic attacks throughout the history of Europe. Okay, and this again is not something. It's not something new. Okay, when we get into Nazi Germany, they're going to have a nationwide pogrom called the Night of Broken Glass, when Jewish synagogues, homes, places of business are going to be destroyed, burned down. You see here a Jewish shop. And really this is when things escalate from discrimination, we'll see that with certain laws, and to organized violence, and then eventually the genocide. Okay, here's an engraving of an early Jewish pogrom. We're going to see these pogroms or these attacks on Jews throughout the Crusades. The several hundred-year battle between Islam and Christianity. Again, if it's an us versus them, and mostly all of Europe is Christian, you could see in the purple, the Jews become the thems. Okay, we looked at this early on, 8 steps of genocide. When you're the outsider, and you're either this or this, white or black. Okay, there's no middle room. Okay, so you're either Christian or not Christian. I mean, you see this here going back, 800 years, showing Jews being attacked, okay, by Christians. This is actually from a Bible. Okay, now historically, most of us know, 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Ferdinand and Isabella, this great king and queen that give Christopher Columbus, the money to go to the New World. Also kicked out all the Jews out of Spain. This has been done in England, France, Germany, Portugal, the Papal States, Rome. This is not something new. Okay, Jews have been discriminated against. Even Martin Luther, seeing Jews as parasites and talking about we need to burn down synagogues, and this religious anti-Semitism is something that's been around as long as Judaism has been around. Okay, we're going to see a lot of anti-Semitism rise up during the Black Plague, and Jews being scapegoated as the ones that poisoned the well, and that they are the ones that caused these millions of people to die, and because of this they'll be scapegoated and attacked. You see here, many believe that the plague was a result of Jews poisoning the well. Okay, the idea of Jews are the ones that killed Jesus. All right, we looked at all genocide, suicide. Deicide is one that kills a god, and you see here Jesus in the middle, and these people stereotypically, the big long hook nose and the curly greasy hair, trying to make them look Jewish. And this is 500 years ago. You see paintings like this. In children's book, when you think of the cross, think of the terrible murder of Jesus, by the Jews. Okay, and we'll look at this children's book, The Poisonous Mushroom. Okay, stories of Jews taking the communion host, the Holy Eucharist from the Catholic Mass, and stabbing it and desecrating it. Ritual murder of Christians, and this going back 500 years. A lot of these stereotypes. The stereotype of the Jewish pig or the Jewish swine, dealing with the devil. You see, this is 500 years ago, showing the Jews making deals with the devil. We looked at this yesterday, Jews, again, during the Middle Ages, outlawed from owning land. Christian regulations say the Christians couldn't loan money and charge interest. And so this kind of created a niche for Jews to get into the banking and money lending industry, which you're going to see a lot of these stereotypes that Jews are just trying to screw us over and take our money, and they're just greedy. Okay, again, this love for capitalism, and again, this out of a children's book, the God of the Jews is money, to earn money. He commits the greatest crime of greed. This one I thought was interesting. Here you have Judas, one of the 12 apostles that sold out Jesus, wearing the stereotypical Jewish hat during the Middle Ages. Again, making sure that you know that Judas was Jewish. Okay, crime, corruption, Jews are trying to take over the world. You can see this from the protocols of the elders of Zion. Now, again, seeing the stereotypes of the big hook nose. Kind of end here with modern day, and this is, there's anti-Semitic hate crimes done every day in the United States. And some of this was kind of interesting to me that, out of the almost 8,000 registered hate crimes, each year, over 13% were anti-Semitic. And you think about how small of a percentage Jewish people are in the United States, yet 13% of the hate crimes were anti-Jewish, whether they're burnings or bombings or vandalism, or you could see here the swastika on the Jewish cemeteries. Okay, anti-Semitism is alive and well. It's something that is a problem in the United States. I mean, again, we're in Beloit. We don't really see it because there's not a huge Jewish population, but this is a nationwide issue. So that's all for anti